Now on to today's speaker, Christal M. Cherry. She is also known as the Board Pro, and she equips and empowers nonprofit boards to support their mission and change the world. Nationally recognized, Christal is principal and CEO of the Board Pro, whose services include recruitment, governance, fundraising, conflict resolution, and diversity, equity, inclusion, access, and belonging. I'll hand it over to you, Christal.
Thank you, Dora. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to see so many faces in the room. This is a topic that always gets a lot of attention. So I'm glad that you're here, and I'm ready for your questions and your comments. So let's just get started. I wanted to introduce myself. As Dora mentioned, my name is Christal Cherry, and I like to introduce myself with these little short bullets, and hopefully you'll find that you have some things in common with me. You'll find that the way that I present is interactive. So please feel free to ask a question. You don't have to wait until the end. If you have the ability to unmute yourselves, please feel free to do so, or put your questions in the chat and we'll get your questions answered. So I am a mompreneur, which just means I'm a kick-ass mom and an entrepreneur. So if that's you, I say high five and bravo. I certainly get it. I'm a native New Yorker, and although I've been gone for about 30 years, you'll still hear my New York accent come out every once in a while. As you guys know, I'm a board consultant. The name of my firm is the Board Pro. I'm a 24-year trained nonprofit fundraiser, which is how I got started in the nonprofit sector back in about 2000, and worked in higher ed, primarily in the first 10 years or so of my career. And then moved into the faith-based space, and then moved into human services, then became a consultant at a consulting agency, and then decided that I wanted to hang my shingle out and work primarily with nonprofit boards. I'm also a donor and a volunteer. I'm a breakfast lover, so if that's you, high five to all my bagel and cheese lovers. Hello, hello, coffee, hello, orange juice. I'm a lover of anything purple, and I think I have a little purple on for you all today, so hopefully you'll appreciate that. I'm a Leo born in August, so if there are any August babies in the room, say high five. Any June babies, any summer babies, high five, high five, high five. And I'm also excited to share that I'm an author. Back in 2021, I wrote a children's book, which is one of the things I always wanted to do. It was on my bucket list. And after I lost my partner to COVID in 2020, I decided it was time for me to get off my bum and start doing some things that I wanted to do in my life. And one of them was to write a children's book. So I have a shameless plug that I normally do when I present. And so here it is. This is my book, Mac and Cheese, Being Different is Okay. It's about two children who learn to accept each other as they are. And it's a wonderful way, if you have little ones in your life, ages 3 to 8, to start having conversations about race and about being different. My book is available on Amazon for $12.99. You can also see my website at macandcheese.com. So that's my shameless plug. All right, well, I thought I'd start our presentation off today by sharing just a few quick board trends that we see going on in 2023. Everything about boards is shifting, right? Everything that we know about all the best practices that I was taught about boards has shifted. So boards are becoming more diverse, which I believe is a good thing because our world is more diverse. We're seeing a shift in our governance models. The traditional model was based on patriarchy, right? Was based on white colonialism. And we're finding now that as younger people are coming onto our board, as people of color and women are start coming on our board, they're starting to question the old ways of being boards, right? And so that's a good thing because the world is changing and we have to adapt. We're seeing that, again, there's generational shifts. You know, you have 5 generations in the workplace right now, from what do they call it, Xers to baby boomers. So we're either going to have yoga on the lawn, or we're going to have the gala at the World Congress Center, right? Those are the two ways that we see differences in the way that our young people and our older people are thinking, right? We had the Great Migration happen in 2020, so a lot of our executive directors shifted out of nonprofit work. And so my understanding is that it's crucial trying to find the right staff, whether it be fundraisers, whether it be executive directors, whether it be board members. And those of you who are executive directors, you might be able to attest to this, but this is what I'm hearing. We know that we've gone to hybrid meetings, so a lot of organizations are now going back to in-person, but with some hybrid options, which is nice. And we're also seeing a reduction in the number of meetings. So a lot of organizations are going from monthly meetings to quarterly meetings, just to honor the time of their board members. So those are just some of the trends that we're seeing in nonprofits. And if you know of any other trends, feel free to put them in the chat. Speaking of diversity and the way that our world is changing, I thought I would just share some quick statistics here on what the racial diversity comparison looks like for our boards. And right now, still 78% white, 7% African American or Black, 4% Hispanic, and 3.5% other. So we know we still have some work to do. And when you start thinking about diversity and why that matters now, why we all caught up on this diversity thing, is that we really want to make sure we have representation, not only on our boards, but on our staff, right? Making sure that depending on who we're serving, if we have a community that we're serving that looks very different than our staff and our board, then we need to make some changes, right? We know that boards that are more diverse, they have more efficiency and organizational growth. We know that better business outcomes happen when there are better diversity on our boards. And we know that demographics like gender, race, and age impact fundraising. I bet you didn't know that, but I'm about to share some statistics to you on that. We know that boards that have more women, I'm not surprised by this statistic. It looks like we have mostly women in the audience today, so we're probably going to high-five each other. We know, ladies, when we get on board on something, we rock it out, okay? Don't let me sell some Girl Scout cookies. You know I will sell some Girl Scout cookies. We get something we're passionate about, and we're going to make some things happen. So boards that have more women on them raise more money. Boards who have young people, ages 39 or younger, seem to raise more money. They're not scared to ask for donations. And believe it or not, boards that have a higher percentage of Asians are rated higher by their CEOs for their fundraising performance. So just some statistics that I thought I would share with you, kind of making the case for why having a diverse board is really important. And so what we're suggesting as we talk about recruitment is maybe adding a policy about the composition of your board in your practices. You know, so you could say something like, well, our organization will strive to build a board that reflects the community that we serve in regard to race, gender, identity, age, and ethnicity. And we could back that up by saying, according to the census in our community, we have, let's say, for example, 79% Blacks, 10% Latinos, 10% whites, and 1% other. The program team has reported that 64% of our clients are female and 36% are male. So therefore, we strive with our organization to have a makeup in our boards that reflect that community. As the demographics of our community continues to change, we will make adjustments to our board accordingly, right? And so these are the kinds of ways that you can start thinking about adding some equity to the work that you're doing. As I said, everything that we know about boards is now being questioned and is shifting, and I think it's a good thing. So that's just my my little plug here on diversity. But what I want to share now is what a recruitment plan looks like. And as a board consultant, one of the biggest increase that I get is helping to find the right board members for my board. That is probably the most asked for and sought out service that I have right now. And then at some point they were asking for even diverse members. So what I do is I start off with my clients and I say, okay, let's create a recruitment plan. Let's create a nominating committee. If you don't have one already, your nominating committee can be members of your board. It could be members of your staff. It could be some volunteers, just some folks who have skin in the game, who are investors in your organization, some constituents who you know really are really passionate about your mission, right? And then after we create our committee, then we create a board matrix, which many of you may know of already. And that matrix will help you to identify who's on your board. What is that skill set that's missing? What are the industries that are missing on your board? Who is the ideal board member that we're looking for right now? Then I create a board announcement for you with a board application. We make sure we have a good board job description. And I know a lot of clients say that they never had one of those before. Then we determine what sources that we need to find the right people. We promote the vacancies via email, via phone, on social media. Then I do some prospect reach, particularly if I'm looking for potential members of color. Then I interview those candidates just to vet them out to make sure that they're right for your board. And then I send those candidates over to the nominating committee, and I let the nominating committee also interview them. And then from there, they select the final candidates for their board, and I notify them, and then we bring them on. I do an onboarding and orientation. So that's the full and complete recruitment plan that we create if we were to work together. But before we begin recruiting, there's some questions you might want to ask. What does our organization need right now and in the future? What role do we want the board to play? Do we want a board that's involved, a working board who's very engaged? Do we just need a board that comes in and they just sign off on policies and they just kind of rubber stamp the budget? What skills are missing from our board? Do we need individuals who are in the finance sector? Maybe we need some folks who are social media influencers or folks who are lawyers or educators. Who is missing from our board? And then are there folks in the pipeline already that we're not even thinking about who can serve on our board? Maybe some volunteers, some vendors, right? Some donors who may have been loyal to your organization for the last 5 or 10 years that you've not considered. And does the board represent the community that we serve? Is it reflective? And what do we want our board to look like in 3, 5, 7 years? So these are some questions that if you have not sat down with your board to discuss these questions before looking, you might get in trouble. So I always ask my clients to really consider this before they start looking for new board members. And if you are looking for more women or people of color or younger people or people who have any kind of disability, why? Why do you need those individuals on your board? What will they bring to your board that your board is currently missing? So making sure that you have all of those questions answered, right? So this is the sample matrix, and it's not a very good one, but it's one that I use because it's quick and I got it off the internet. And it really just helps you to kind of identify who's on your board by age, gender, by their race, where they're located, whether they're part of your community, underserved community, and what expertise they have. Your board matrix can be a lot longer than this. I've done matrices for clients where we include religion, we include gender identity, we include whether you're binary or not binary. Every organization is looking for different things. So you can put on your matrix whatever attributes you're actually looking for that are important to you, right? So once I work with you, I create an announcement like this. This was one of my clients, which is World Animal Protection. I created this sample announcement, and I made sure on the announcement that the expectations for being a board member of this nonprofit are clear, right? You're to attend quarterly meetings, you commit to a 3-year term, you're to advocate for mission, you're to help to develop the strategic plan, and they want you to be informed about what's going on with animal safety. And they're looking for people who are proven leadership, who have proven leadership and strategic thinking skills, a background in finance, technology, fundraising, and public policy, and experience with animal advocacy. So these are the kinds of things that you want to make sure when you start looking for your board members that you're real clear from the onset what you're looking for, so they know when they sign up. I have had people say on this announcement, we want to make sure that you're willing to make a meaningful contribution, or we want you to consider making a $500 annual gift, whatever it is that you want from your board members. You put this on your announcement when you start recruiting. So when they apply for your role, they know exactly what they're getting into. And then at the bottom here, we encourage applicants from diverse backgrounds to apply. So they're letting them know off the front that we're looking for a wide breadth of individuals. And so when you start building your pipeline of folks that you want to consider, you want to maybe set some intentional targets for people based on gender, age, and ethnicity, maybe tracking some folks, and I should say you should always be building a pipeline when you're recruiting, right? Because even if you don't have an opening now on your board, you're going to have some folks roll off in the next year or so, and then you're going to have some openings. Well, why not start looking now, right? So you can do that by creating opportunities for people to engage who may not be ready now, but who will be in a year. You can ask them to serve on a fundraising committee, be on the finance committee, on the development committee, right? You can ask them to serve as an advisory council member so that they can get some experience with your organization, engaging your culture, getting to know your mission, getting to know who you serve. So when that seat opens in 6 months or when that seat opens in a year, you have some folks in pipeline who are ready to just move right into that seat. So start tracking people early in their careers and early in your search to make sure that when folks are needed, you have some folks in the pipeline. If you're looking for people of color, making sure that you give them an opportunity to like as I mentioned, serve, or maybe on your advisory council. If you want to get more women, cast a wide net to see if you can find the kind of women that you're looking for. So my point is build a pipeline before you even start meeting it. Then know where to go. Okay, so where do I go to find diverse board members? I had so many folks say to me, Christal, we don't know where to find qualified diverse members, which of course I shake my head in amazement because they're everywhere. And these are just some places that you can look, right? So impactopportunity.org is a website that I often publicize announcements when I have openings for board seats, and I get some folks from there. And then if you were looking for people of color, you have the 100 Black Men of America, you have the Black and Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Here we have the Hispanic Business Association, in this place in California, the Asian Business. So if you're looking for people of color, you have to be intentional about posting your openings and your vacancies or reaching out to specific groups where you're going to find these people. They're not going to just fall in your lap. You have to be intentional. I also do a lot of cold calling on LinkedIn. So I will actually go in, if you tell me you're looking for people who work for Delta, because you want Delta on your board, I will actually go in LinkedIn and type Delta Airlines, and you'll get a whole bunch of people who will pop up who work for Delta Airlines. And I actually cold call them and say, I have a wonderful organization that are looking for board members, and I'd like to know if this is something of interest to you. So there's ways for you to let the world know that you're looking. Here in Atlanta, the Atlanta Women's Foundation has a board training program where they train women to sit on boards, and then they try to find nonprofits for them to serve on, right? So I don't know if you have a foundation like that where you live, but if there's a foundation that serves women, certainly check them out, right? United Way here in Atlanta has a program called the Volunteer Involvement Program, VIP program, which I actually am an alumna of. And it's a 10-week program where they train you how to sit on a board, and then they look for nonprofits to help match you up with. So you might want to check with your local United Way to see if they have a program like that where they actually have trained people to sit on boards, and now they're looking for nonprofits to match those individuals up with, right? There are organizations, there are groups on Facebook. The nonprofit is called People of Color Nonprofit Professionals. It's on Facebook. You can post in that group if you're looking for people of color. You can post in, go in Clubhouse, LinkedIn, Indeed.com, Work for Good. So there's just lots of ways that if you're looking for not only diverse members, but just the right members, right? You'll know where to go to look. So I'm going to stop now to see if there are any questions. Let me see if I can see some faces. Can I look at the gallery here? Oh, hi, there you all are. Hi. So I want to stop now. I see all my faces of my lovely people. I got Linda, I got Sylvia, I got Amy and Deborah, Christina and Sharon. Hi, Margot. Hi, Betsy. What's going on, Scott? Oh, there's another Christal in the room. Hey, Christal. So I want to know from you guys, any questions so far about what I said? Reverend Dr. Sandy's here. Abba and Julie. What are you thinking? What issues and questions do you have about recruitment that I can help you with? Don't make me call on you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. Hey, Janine.
So I have a question. We have, I'm on a new board. It's the ARC in my area. And there are two consumers on our board. One does not read and the other one does. But I wanted to ask you, what do you know about recruiting members of the population you serve that may not be able to do some of the skill sets that a board member needs? And are there ways in which to incorporate their voices and their participation that you've seen done really well so that they're not just sitting there, but they're actually really feeling like they're involved?
Yeah. And so in this case, it's probably going to be really important to pair them up with someone on the board, right? So that you can kind of bring them along, because if they do have any challenges where they can't participate fully, having them just sitting there being a bump in the log is not helpful to anyone, right? So maybe someone who can explain to them if they need more explanation on what's going on in the board meeting, or helping them to engage in ways that they're able. So I know often people will have people on boards who have been homeless or who are homeless. You know, people who are students, right? Who are young people on board, 16, 17 years old, and they can't give the same kind of money. They may not have the same kind of time, but you engage them at the level that they can engage on. So give me an example of the person who you're mentioning and some troubles that he or she might be having.
Basically just following the meeting, following what's happening. And, when you look at a board skill set, they need to have financial oversight, they need to have strategic planning abilities, be able to fundraise. So when you look at those skill sets, for me, I'm asking myself, should there be perhaps an advisory board instead? It's tricky because from a human rights perspective, you want people who are being represented by your organization sitting with you to help you make decisions on policies. But it's very rare that we're making programmatic decisions. Most of what we're making are more strategic.
And so for someone who can't read, that definitely might pose some challenges. Let me throw this question out to your fellow audience members here. What do you guys have for Janine? What can she do to support someone on her board who might be challenged in this way? Anybody? Just unmute. You can put it in the chat, but I would love to have conversation with you. Anybody have any suggestions? Hi, Amy.
Hi. Maybe as a board participant, they could be involved on a specific committee that has some say in programming or whatever you think that person's assets and experiences might be able to lend to the board in its work. Maybe our board is dealing with all these issues you brought up are so similar to us because our community is non-native English speakers. And so we run into this issue with language, like you said, understanding what's being discussed at a meeting and so on. But what we're trying to do is make our board more circular and inclusive by opening up committees that maybe have cross functions. So there may be board members that sit on a committee that are existing board members and know about strategic planning and know about fundraising, et cetera. But we bring someone onto that committee from maybe our alumni or current families that are in our program and ask for their opinions on those things. So right now they're not serving on our board yet, but I feel like it's a way for us to develop them, as Christal said, like developing a pipeline. We also have a alumni group that's forming, and they're telling us what things they want to get involved in. And I think that's what we've realized is really important, is that we hear from them. It's their program. What do they want? And how do they want to be involved, instead of us trying to think of ways for them to be involved.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
And what do you think? I mean, what do you think, Janine, about maybe having provisions in your bylaws for members who do have those challenges, so who can't participate fully, with ways that they maybe can engage? So that, it's in your bylaws. Well, these are the expectations of most of our board members. We do have some who have some limitations. So therefore, then we're going to make the following exceptions, that they would not have to do A, B, and C, or that they can participate in this particular way, whether it be they help us plan an event, or we can ask them some questions about their advice about some things. I mean, just making some accommodations for them if you're going to have those kinds of folks on your board. What do you think about that? What does anybody think about that?
One thing I will add, Jean Dolan here from the Boston LGBTQ Museum, I think that situation is also giving you some insight into a population you're not tapping into, because there might be people you want to engage with your organization that may not be able to read English. So there's an opportunity for you there to create materials that are maybe audio or that are maybe graphic, that people can, because we all communicate differently, and not everyone will be able to read or read English more specifically. And so that is an opportunity for you to have things translated, to have things just in audio, to have things in different format where people can still understand and not feeling that there is a barrier and that they cannot engage.
Right. And getting to know those people, because they probably have skills and skill sets that, that could be useful to you in some other way. Right.
I think this is Sylvia Hampton. I'm a fundraiser, a lifelong fundraiser. Good job too, Christal.
Thank you.
And everybody, very good job. I'm a fundraiser, so it's all about the money. Show me the money. Most of the nonprofits I've worked for have needed money. And I've done the grassroots thing with the boards, and the heart is there, and it's great. But when it comes down to it, to keep the doors open, to serve the client, to serve the clients that we need to serve, we need to have money. So my question is, couldn't we just and I love who we serve, which is homeless people and so forth and so on. I've also worked with Harvard, which is one of the best brands around. So this having people that are on the board that can't really give in that way or figure out how to give in that way, wouldn't they be better served if they were in some kind of programmatic format of, you know, advisors to the board, or so their voice still would be heard, but we would be looking, the board would be looking for money. We don't have enough of that. And what I wanted to do today is come to this because I have started working with a new client, and they're great. They're kind of startup, and we want to raise millions. And so we want to reconfigure the board to that end. And so the grassroots thing is not going to work, just quite frankly. And I was hoping that I would get something new from you, Christal, and from the audience. Any new things that people are doing with, you know, making that board strong.
I'm just going to interrupt. We'll get to Sylvia Hampton's question, but first, Reverend Dr. Sandy Range has had her hand raised for a while, so I want to make sure her question is addressed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're a very new nonprofit. We're just under 2 years old. We started in 2019. COVID shut that board down, which was a good thing, actually, because that board was awful. But so now it's starting in February of 2022, and we have 3 of us. That's it. We're the board, we're the organization, we're everything. So I'm actively seeking out qualified board members. I recently got invited to the Board Source, and they just contacted me to do some interviews in December. My question is, what are the pertinent questions to ask when interviewing potential board members, other than the usual mission, commitment, passion type questions? What do I need to ask these people that I don't know about?
Well, yeah, when I interview potential board members, I ask them, you know, please share with me what you think board service is, right? Because a lot of people don't know. You know, what do you think the roles and responsibilities of a board member are? You know, why does our mission resonate with you? Do you have time and commitment and the brain cells and energies to commit to being on a board? What do you think the biggest challenges facing homelessness today, or facing child obesity, or whatever your mission is? What do you think? You want to know, what about our industry do you know? Right?
You guys would activate the transcript so I could have all this.
I mean, there's a whole list of questions that I normally ask. And then I always end my interview by asking, how can we make this a transformative experience for you, right? Because what are you looking for out of this experience? Not only what can we get from you, but what do you want? How is this going to be an experience that you enjoy, that you will tell people about, you know? And so we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to you as a potential board member as well. So there's a whole list of questions that you can ask. But getting back to, I want to make sure that I get to everybody. So getting back to Sylvia's question, yes, there are some boards who fundraise, and I think that's important. I'm a former fundraiser, so I'm with you on needing the money, but I'm also with you on allowing people from the community to be a part of what's going on with the organization, for being able to share their stories. It doesn't make sense to have people serving on a board who are raising lots of money, who are giving a lot of money, who are clueless about the community that you're serving, who have no lived experience, who have no proximity to the people who you're serving, who are making decisions about these people, and they have no clue what it's like to be in that community. So I want to be mindful of the fact that while we do need money, and we would like our board members to raise money, if you got people who are clueless about that mission, and they really don't understand that they should not be making decisions about what happens to them. So there has to be some balance. And I do believe that board members should raise money. I do believe that there are different ways to engage in fundraising. It's not all about asking, right? You can raise money and be a part of the fundraising process without being the person to actually ask. And that's a whole different fundraising training. So if you're interested in learning more about board fundraising, I'm happy to share that with you. But I did want to make that point clear. Before I move forward in my presentation, I want to make sure that any other persons who have questions about strategic recruitment, that perhaps I can answer your question. Any others? Okay, well, I'm going to keep sharing. And like I said, if I come to a slide that you have a question about, please let me know. Okay, so I guess this is timely, right? Introduction and preparation for interviews. So we normally send them an email thanking them for their interest. We send them all the deets, the annual report, the strategic plan. We invite them to interview. We set up a convenient time, and then we remind them to dress professional and be on time. We're setting the tone from the very beginning that this is a professional commitment. I had one time a person come to a board interview with curlers in her hair. She had just come from under the dryer, and she thought it was okay to put her camera on with curlers in her hair. And I stopped the interview immediately, and I said, "This is not the right position for you. This is a professional commitment. I know we're busy. I know we're trying to multitask, but I needed you to take those curlers out of your hair before you came on a board interview with me, the board pro." So I had to stop that interview and tell her that her candidacy was no longer open. Right? During those board interviews, I tell them if you're not going to be in person, you're going to use Zoom. Interview for 30 minutes, keep your cameras on, ask 5 to 8 questions, be friendly and professional, and thank them again for their interest. You just asked me about some questions. Here we go. Give us an overview of your experience in your own word. How does a board support an organization? What do you anticipate your contributions to be as a board member? Do you have personal or professional conflicts? What do you believe is the biggest challenge facing whatever the mission is today? Can you commit to attending 8 board meetings this year? What questions do you have about being on our board? How can we make this a meaningful experience for you? So that's just a subset of many questions that I ask, depending on the nonprofit, depending on what it is they're looking for. So I hope these questions are helpful to you. And I've sent this PDF of this PowerPoint to Dora, so hopefully she'll share it with you, all of you, so you don't have to take notes. Once you bring them on, you want to make sure you onboard them properly, right? There should be a proper orientation, because how you introduce them to your organization is going to dictate what that experience is going to be like for that board member. So you want to make sure you give them a proper orientation, no more than 2 hours. You want to make sure this orientation takes place ideally before the first board meeting. You want to make sure there's an announcement about who you're bringing onto the board, all over your website, social media, letting the world know that you're bringing on these new happy faces. And if you have some kind of gift, some kind of swag or something to give them, a t-shirt or pen or whatever, make sure you want to make them feel welcomed right at the very beginning. Then during the orientation, to help them feel welcome, we're still doing the board buddies. I don't know if they're still doing that anymore, but assigning a board buddy to serve as a mentor for the first few meetings, making sure they use name tags so everybody gets to know the names of the new board members. Give them the board toolkit. That means all the documents that they need to help them equipped to be good board members. Share minutes from the last board meeting so they can see what happened. Ask them to join a committee right away if you have committees. Ask them to make a meaningful donation right away. Letting them know this is important to us. This is a value of us. And then share a calendar of some of the upcoming meetings that you have. So you want to bring them, once you get them, once you recruit them, you want to make sure you bring them and introduce them so that they feel comfortable right away. And then you want to share, let me just go back to this because this is really important. And I don't know, I think later on in the presentation, we're going to talk about culture and value. Maybe I'll just wait until we get there. Okay, so you want to share what the fundamental duties of being on the board are, which is duty of care, duty of loyalty, and duty of obedience. Many of you probably have seen this already, your legal responsibilities. And then maybe coming up with a board pledge or a contract, right? Which helps set clear expectations of what's expected of them, acknowledges that they have been told of their responsibilities, and it holds them accountable, right? Your board contract can look like this. As a member of this board, I have a legal and ethical responsibility to put the organization first. I pledge my commitment to assist in carrying out the work of Family Promise. I'm sorry, this is from an old presentation. I act responsibly and prudently. I understand that my duties include legal and fiscal moral responsibility, attendance at 10 board meetings per year, an annual minimum financial contribution of $500 or $1,000, or a meaningful donation, however your organization does it. I'm expected to participate in one or more fundraising activities, and I understand that should I fail to fulfill my commitments, that I will have a conversation with the board chair as to whether or not this is a good time for me to serve. And this is where you want to pull out those term limits, right? Because how many board members do we have serving who have exceeded term limits? It's time for them to go, right? You want to make sure you share the board member Bill of Rights, which just lets them know they have rights as a board member, that they have unlimited access to records, particularly as it relates to policies about human resources or whatever procedures that are going on inside the organization. They have a right to dissent. They have a right to call a meeting if they believe that the leader of the organization is doing something that puts the organization in jeopardy. They have a right to be protected against liability, and they should know the business judgment rule that says that they're protected in the event that they make decisions that they feel are in the best interest of the organization. So board members have rights, and as organizations, we need to let them know what they are. We need to make sure that our board members, our new board members, are clear about our mission. You'd be surprised how many board members are serving who are not clear. Once they're more engaged about mission, they will be confident. I'm sorry. Once they know about mission and what it takes to advance it, they'll be more engaged. It should be reviewed on a regular basis. Your mission should be at the bottom or the top of every meeting agenda. You need to hold mission moments to make the board members feel good about showing impact on why the work you're doing is so wonderful, and explain that they are appreciated. They are volunteers. They are not paid staff people. So we want to keep that at the forefront. Here's what I was talking about, the culture statement. So I believe that every board should create a culture statement that says, this is who we are as a board. These are the values that we embrace as a board. This is what's going to be permitted in our board space, right? We, the members of the board of directors, seek at all times to achieve excellence as an organization that is focused on advancing our mission. We embrace values that include whatever your values are: open communication, respectful debate, inclusion and belonging, informed decision-making. This is where you put your values in, so everyone is clear. These are the values of our organization. So when you have to make tough decisions later on, you can revert back to what are our values as a group, right? We engage in proactive leadership development and succession planning. We strive for collaboration with our staff, with our volunteers. We approach our work with intention, open hearts, and a spirit of gratitude and reward. So whatever you want your culture statement to be, just create one and give this to your new board members so that everyone is clear who we are, what we're intending to do when we're together, and how we intend to navigate this space. Ways for you to build board culture, right? Making sure, again, you have mission moments, making sure there's some networking and social time, that you guys have some kind of annual retreat where you can get away once or twice a year to really brainstorm what that organization is going to look like next year or in the next 2 or 3 years. Maybe having a social once a year, Christmas time, Hanukkah, July 4th, I don't care, Mother's Day, making sure that everybody gets a chance to just kind of get to know each other. Your board is going to build culture by spending time with one another, right? Maybe having a day where they get together to do some community service. You want to create a culture where everyone feels like they belong, right? Auditing the language that are in your brochures, the pictures and images of people, making sure that they're represented with dignity, using language that is inclusive, not talking about the size of my home or my boat or where I'm vacationing to Australia or my kids are in private school. That might make some folks who are not in that position feel uncomfortable. Acknowledging and celebrating cultural holidays. I always suggest that you put together a DEI calendar so that you can see what holidays are important to members of your board when they're not available, right? Some of the traditions of your board member. Hold board meetings at times and in locations that are convenient for all people. Not single moms who have children, they're trying to get off to school at 7 o'clock in the morning. They can't come to a board meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning. Or if the board meeting is way out in the suburbs and some of your board members don't have cars. So you want to make sure that you create a sense of belonging so the new board members that you recruit will want to stay on your board, will want to be engaged, will want to fundraise for you, will want to advocate for mission. You have to make them feel comfortable, like they have a voice, like they can weigh in, right? And then you want to make sure that at the end of each year, that you're assessing yourselves as a board. Did we do the right thing? Did we do the things that we said we were going to do? And by having a self-assessment, it shows accountability, right? Often completed by the governance committee usually based on attendance, giving, and participation. So if you wanted to create a board scorecard, it could look something like this, right? I have a full understanding of my role and responsibilities. I feel seen, heard, and respected as a board member. There are plentiful engagement opportunities for me. I believe the board has clear goals with actions that result from relevant and realistic strategic planning. This is how you keep these new board members that you want to recruit. You want to make sure that you're asking them whether or not we're doing a good job. And so this is the end of my presentation. I just wanted to share that I am doing a training on November 28th with my friend and partner, Dr. Renee Rubin Ross, on equitable governance. So it's going to be a wonderful training if you're interested. It's $79. So I'm going to stop now because I realized I went really quickly through those last few slides, but I want to give you an opportunity to ask questions, to make comments, to maybe share an aha moment, something that I said that maybe you had never heard of or that you are doing that's working as it relates to strategic recruitment for your boards.
I'm just going to see if Scott's still there. You raised your hand earlier and you asked a question in the chat.
Yep, I put it in the chat. Yeah, I can say it out loud if you want.
Oh, great. Okay, go ahead.
Do you find that when you're advertising with online postings for directors, there's any diminishment in terms of engagement or the caliber of those directors because it's not through personal referral?
Absolutely not, because when I'm recruiting for board members, I have already met with the board. We have done our visioning session on what the organization is looking to look like in the next 3 to 5 years. I know what skill sets are missing. I know why they need to recruit more women or why they need to recruit more people of color or people who are homeless. And so when I'm interviewing my board members, I'm vetting for all of that. Not only skill set, but etiquette, nuanced things that sometimes you can't see on a resume. That's why I want face-to-face interviews when I can actually have conversations with my potential board members to see whether or not that they're a good fit. And so when I refer my prospects on to the client, they are vetted individuals. I've seen their resume. I've asked for references. I've interviewed them. Some board members have asked prospects to write something. So every client is different. But no, I have not found that doing so diminishes the quality of the candidate that I'm actually recruiting. In fact, I think I get better qualified candidates by doing that.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Great. Maury had a question?
Yes, thank you. This has been fabulous. I very much appreciate it, and I'm hoping to send your info to another organization I work with.
Thank you.
I have a question, which is why would people join a board? What are the reasons people choose to get engaged in this incredibly difficult, sometimes complicated, very important work where they aren't getting paid typically? And I have a whole question about, do you pay board members? In some places do, but I'm wondering, what are the benefits that you can, what can we talk about in terms of benefits? What resonates with people who are volunteers?
Yeah, well, we know that people who are volunteers, they want to give back in some way, right? A lot of times people join boards because they have personal experience or personal connection to that mission, right? So for instance, I had a client, the Parkinson's Council. They're out of Pennsylvania, and a lot of their board members have family members who have Parkinson's disease, right? So a lot of times they have a personal connection to mission. Maybe their family member or a friend or someone has had that disease or who has been homeless or who has been, a victim of abuse. So there, a lot of times there's a personal connection. But people want to give back. They realize how blessed they are, and they want to be able to say, my life had some kind of meaning. Because after all, working 9 to 5 every day and coming home, after a while you look around and go, there's got to be something more than this, right? There's got to be a way that my life means something. And so I want to do something that maybe is going to impact or help someone else. So people give back for lots of different reasons. But in addition to the personal reason, it could be spiritual, it could be personal. But to be able to be around like-minded individuals, to help you to build your interpersonal skills, right? To be able to have a network of individuals, just to have a network of individuals in your profession, right? So there are lots of ways and reasons why people want to engage. Sometimes they want to engage in building programs or interacting with the clients. Maybe I like holding babies, so whatever it is, there are lots of reasons why I might want to serve on a board. So for example, I'm on the board of the local YMCA here in my area, and I do so because health is important to me. Right. So I'm a member of that Y. My son goes to that Y. He goes to summer camp there. We engage and participate in a lot of the free clubs and activities. That is important to me. I'm on the board of another organization called Lift to Enrich that teaches young people how to read. Right. My son has a reading disability. Right. And so I know how important that is. So those are two organizations I've chosen to be a part of for my personal connection.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else want to add anything about why people serve on boards?
Otherwise, Ellen's been waiting for.
Hi. Feel free to unmute. Whoever's
Ellen?
next.
I'm sorry. I had two questions. I had one in the chat actually, which I can't remember now. But the other one I was wondering about is what if you have a very small board? Somebody else alluded to this. You have basically 3 people on your board. And you don't have a nominating committee. What do you think is the best practice in terms of if you have a potential board member, do you, does the person who brought them in interview them first and then bring them back to the board? Or, and does that person participate in the interview process or what is in your experience?
As I shared, Ellen, your nominating committee does not have to only be board members, right? So you can, if you have a staff person or a volunteer or a donor, you can invite them to be on your nominating committee. It doesn't just have to be the 3 of you.
Oh, you could ask anybody?
Not anybody, but you want to invite someone who's invested in your mission, someone who you trust, who's had a long time relationship. It might be a volunteer, like I said, it might be a staff member, somebody else that you feel like really cares about the work that you're doing. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And what if that's even a small group? And then do you bring that person? What if it's the executive director bringing the person in? Does the executive director participate in that interview process as well?
I mean, you want your executive director to weigh in, but they don't have the final decision. Remember, your executive director reports to your board, so they're essentially choosing their boss, right? So you definitely want some to weigh in, and you want some feedback, but they don't get to make the final say about who's on the board.
Okay. All right, but what if the executive director brings the person in, though? I mean,
that's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we want our executive directors to make referrals. We want them to be able to stay out. They're in the community, right? They're seeing people every day. They might see someone that they think they might have a donor. In fact, I just worked with a client. The executive director recommended a donor who had been giving for many years to serve on the board, and I interviewed him and brought him in. The executive director was not involved in the interviews, but she did give me some background about him as to why she thought he would be a good board member, and he was. So.
Okay, I'll let someone else speak.
Hi.
Lenka, are you still there? Lenka, do you have a question?
Lenka?
Apologies. Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a question. I think it was really great to hear you speak about all the different aspects of recruiting, Christal. And one of the earlier slides, you had a bullet point on, be really clear and intentional about targets and quotas and how you want to build the board and why, especially when you want to bring diversity to the board. And how do you, and I think you had some good suggestions, how do you build the pipeline, right? How do you get people that you really want to come and be interested in your organization? And by the way, I'm the governance committee of the Boston Cares organization. But I think we struggle with that. We do struggle bringing people that would really represent the community we want to serve into the pipeline enough. And so trying to, and you mentioned, sometimes I do cold calling, I kind of know what the organization wants, I know what the profile is, et cetera, and I'm kind of go on LinkedIn, et cetera. How do you also don't get kind of tangled up, or don't we get tangled up in kind of tokenizing people in the process, right? Like, and so I know that the skills and the fit for the board is the first thing, but also you're trying to build, diversity that the board is lacking, and it's a long-term process. And how kind of do we do it in a way that's intentional, sensitive, and is done the right way? I don't know if you have any good suggestions.
Yeah, excuse me. I mean, if you're going to change the diversity of the board in terms of, gender or color, you want to make sure that you're bringing in maybe more than one person at a time in that area, right? So that this person doesn't feel tokenized. And you explain to them and be honest and clear with them that the reason why you're bringing them in, I'm hearing what is that I'm hearing in the background? Sounds like someone is vacuuming or something. You want to make sure that you're clear with the people that you're bringing on, that you explain to them the reason why you're bringing them on. We're bringing you onto our board because you have lots of wonderful skill sets. You have great background. You have great experience. We think you'd be an asset to the board. And also you are a person of color. We realize, or you are a woman, or you are a person. We realize that we have not done a good job in engaging people from your group. And we want to make sure that we have diverse voices on our board that represents our community. And so we're starting today by asking people who we know are qualified to serve on our board. And so I would not try to skip around that. I would be real clear, intentional, and transparent with you bringing on someone new who's the first of whatever group that is, about why you're bringing them on so that they don't feel tokenized. We're inviting you to be on the board because you're qualified, because you have wonderful backgrounds in whatever A, B, C, or D, or because you're a social influencer, because we believe that you care deeply about children, but you also happen to be a person of color. And we realize we have not done a good job in recruiting people of color on our board, and we want to start today. Would you be willing to take the chance and let us show you that we mean what we say when we're going to bring in diverse voices? I mean, if you were to say that to me, if you would be honest and transparent like that to me, it would give me an opportunity to really think about it. I'd be thankful. But thank goodness they realized that they had to be upfront about that.
That's great. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay, we got a lot of questions. Let's get to them. Okay. Who's next?
Next is Jean.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, Christal. Thank you so much for your presentation. Really enjoyed and learned a lot. I would like for you to talk about more about the services you offer and your capacity to take on new clients, because you might have one here. And if you're comfortable, to the extent you're comfortable, talk about the cost of the services as well. And I'm saying this because even in the board development of the museum, a lot of these strategies that you mentioned need to be developed. That's work in and of itself.
Sure. I mean, if you go to my website, theboardpro.com, you'll see some of my prices. I don't try to hide them. But I am, so I do board recruitment. I can come in and talk about governance. I can talk about fundraising. I have a whole training on a deep dive on DEI. I've audited bylaws. I've audited strategic plans to make sure there's no bias in them. I've done conflict resolution in boards. I've done plan giving in boards. I mean, having a background in fundraising helps me to add some other things to board work. Board Service 101 is probably my biggest one. People want to just have the roles and responsibilities because they feel like their board members don't know. Fundraising is another one that people, and I also do fundraising through a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. That's also a big one that I'm asked for a lot. So, and my prices range and vary. I also take in consideration the size of your organization and the budget of your organization. Because if you're a $300,000 organization, I certainly will not charge you the same thing I'm going to charge a $14 million organization.
I was just going to stop right there. So we're at 2:00 right now. I don't, there's still one more question from Julie. I just want to thank everyone for joining us, and thank you, Christal. If you have time to stay on, we'll continue the conversation, and just everyone will receive a follow-up email from us with the slides. And just want to give you a plug for next month. Our seminar will be, is titled The Odd Couple, or a Match Made in Heaven. And presenter David Parrish, who has extensive experience both as a board chair and board member, will lead a conversation on how board members, board chairs, and executive directors can establish a collaborative and trusting relationship. That's on Tuesday, December 12th from 1 to 2 p.m. So look forward to seeing folks there, and hope everyone has a great holiday. For those that can stay on and want to stay on, Christal, if you still have time,
sure.
We can continue. So I'll go to Julie.
Yes, thank you. This is a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie.
I work for Friends of Waltham Family School, and they serve, Waltham Family School serves immigrants, immigrant families with ESL and preschool education. And my question is, we had a meeting with a bank yesterday, and you know, they're interested in knowing if we need board members, and we also have the bank that we do business with. And then when I go to, Waltham Chamber of Commerce meetings, there's always banks coming up and giving me their business card. And we will be approaching them for sponsorship, all the banks for our big event. And so I'm just wondering how this works in terms of which banks we might want to possibly talk to about board of directors positions, or if there's any conflicts around this.
Well, I don't see any conflicts. I mean, you certainly would want to, interview the banks, right? You want to find out about each bank to see which one do you think, or maybe there are multiple banks. But just like anything, you want to make sure that the company has integrity, right? You want to make sure that their values align with your values. So I mean, there's some things background research you want to do before you start having a relationship with them and inviting some of their folks to be on your board.
Yeah, they're all reputable banks. Is there any kind of issue with having more than one bank on a board?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
I think that seems like it. Thank you so much, Christal. I think the fact that everybody stayed for an entire presentation speaks a lot, and we will be following up.
Well, feel free to link up with me, Dora. Let me tell you, feel free to link up with me on LinkedIn, just Christal M. Cherry, or if you want to talk to me about services, go to theboardpro.com. But I'm so grateful, Dora, that you invited me, and I thank you all for your time and attention. I'm happy to answer any questions. My email is hello@theboardpro.com. So if you have a burning question, you could send me a quick email, hello@theboardpro.com.
Yeah, and we've got a link to in the email. There is a link to you as well, so that will be going out so people can easily contact you too.
Okay, great. Thank you. Everyone
right.
have a great Thanksgiving.
All right. Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.